Do you feel loved? That is where I'm going to start tonight. Do you feel loved? I have just spent the past week at the Sunshine Coast with my family on a holiday, and I've kept coming back to this question. Do you feel loved? Do we feel loved? Because I don't think we do. I think many of us feel like that guy a lot of the time. Maybe every day, maybe once a week. I don't know how often, but I reckon most of us can relate to that guy in the video. And let me tell you a bit about my week at the coast. So we had this beautiful house. It was at Sunrise Beach, which is right next to Noosa. My whole family, or almost my whole family, was there for the first time in a long time. We even had my little dog Bobby up on his first ever holiday. On paper, it was pretty much the perfect trip, but I spent a lot of the past week, if not most of it, feeling pretty lonely. And loneliness has been a major struggle of mine for years, and I haven't really opened up to many people. Not a lot of people know that it's something I've struggled with, but it has been. Probably since about year 8 or year 9, I have felt regularly like this feeling of loneliness is not far away from wherever I am. And I thought I was being maybe a bit brave or vulnerable talking about this tonight, but then I did some research, and turns out if I think I'm alone in feeling lonely, I couldn't be much more wrong. Here are some stats I found. 1 in 10 people feel like they don't have a single close friend. These are all recent stats. 10% of us don't even have one close friend. In 2001, a study found that on average people had 10 close friends. The exact same study in 2014 found that people now have 2. Now, I don't know maths very well, but that is not good growth. That is quite a rapid decline. We've lost 8 close friends in 13 years. More than 50% of people feel like they have nobody to talk to about personal issues. That's an incredibly lonely place to be. And maybe you're like me. Maybe you've thought, yeah, but I'm single, you know. I will find the person I'm going to end up with, and we'll get married and start a family, and that'll cure my loneliness. But that doesn't do it either. 70% of long-term couples go through regular, that's not occasional, not every now and then, that's regular patterns of feeling unappreciated, disconnected, and unloved. This is hitting all of us, every single one of us. Here's some more figures. Since the 1960s, families have 60% fewer picnics and 40% fewer family dinners. This is worrying. 85% of Gen Ys spend more time overall on social media than in face-to-face interactions. 85% of us, social media is our closest friend now. This is the most worrying stat I found. Texting and driving is now the number 1 cause of teenage deaths in the Western world. We are so lonely, so desperately lonely, so much looking for love, that we are driving 100 kilometres down the freeway and have to check our phone just to feel loved for a second. And it's killing us. It's killing us more than anything. We all struggle with loneliness. We all just want to love and to be loved. And maybe you're sitting there and you can relate instantly. Maybe you're thinking, I feel this every second of every day. Maybe you're thinking, this hits me on Saturday nights when I've got nothing on. Who knows? But every person struggles with this. This is something we're all feeling. Why aren't we talking about it more? Here's a great quote from Mother Teresa. The greatest disease in the West today is not TB or leprosy. It is being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for. We can cure physical diseases with medicine, but the only cure for loneliness, despair, and hopelessness is love. There are many people in the world who are dying for a piece of bread, but there are many more dying for a little love. Loneliness and the feeling of being unwanted is the most terrible poverty. This is a woman who spent her whole life working with the poor, and she says loneliness and the feeling of being unwanted is the most terrible poverty. And here's something I want to make clear. This is not intended. This is not the ideal human situation. We were not made to be lonely. The pain of loneliness is like the pain of hunger. It's a biological signal that something is wrong. It's your body telling you, hey, it's not meant to be like this. This is not what it was meant to be like. So we know that we're all lonely. We know we aren't meant to be lonely. We know it's a problem that's getting worse in society. I think the stats back all of that up. The next question is, why are we getting lonelier? Look, there's a number of explanations. I think a big part of it is the social network. I'm going to try and speak about social media without sounding like an old person by calling it the Facebook. Look, social media can do great things. It has a lot of great elements to it. Keeping in touch with people, organising things, it's great. But it has 3 major issues as I see it. The first is comparison. Now, Let me set the scene. Remember primary school, when you put out your party invitations, and I don't know if you guys had this, but you were judged almost on how many people came to your party. If you got 20 people to yours, you're going okay. 30, you're going pretty well. If you got 40, then you're going really well. You're a popular kid now. If you only got 8 or 9, then you're feeling a little bit less, And Facebook is this every single day. You go on there, you post a photo, you post a status, you write a funny comment, and you are instantly judged by likes compared to everyone else. You post a funny status, it gets 10 likes. Someone else posts a funny status, it gets 40. Instantly, 4 times or 3 times, I don't do maths very well, however many times more people like them more than you. Now, how are we not meant to feel unloved when every second of every day on social media we are being judged and compared? And we're doing it to ourselves. And I can tell you, from the 1 or 2 times maybe I have got a lot of likes, that doesn't fulfill it either. No one's feeling happy in that metric. Substitution is the other big issue of social media. Substitution is when you use social media in place of real life friendships, in place of real life connections. And a lot of people do it. A lot of people think, hey, I've been seeing my friends' photos of their baby. I've been seeing the uni they're going to. I've been seeing them post stuff. I don't need to have coffee with them this month. And then another month goes by, and then 6 months, and then a year. And then you haven't seen your friend face to face for years. It happens to so many people. When you start having friendships that are more online than in person, no wonder you're going to feel lonely. But the biggest issue with social media for me is perception. This is what's doing most damage with loneliness. So let's take your average Saturday night. Think of last night, think of the Saturday before, whatever you want, right? Most of us aren't up to anything spectacular. Maybe you are seeing a friend, or you're out for a family dinner, or you got a night in. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing brand new. But that's not what Facebook tells you. Because those people, let's say 90% of your friends who aren't up to anything special, those guys aren't posting on Facebook. They're not posting just another night in. It's the 10% of people who are doing something special. And it's a different 10% every week who are doing something special, who are posting. But the thing is, that 10% is 100% of your newsfeed. So if you're on Facebook on a Saturday night at 7:30 scrolling through your newsfeed, you're only seeing people who are doing fun things. And you assume that that's what everyone's doing. You assume you're the only one not doing that. Social media in those 3 ways is making us dreadfully, dreadfully lonely. So we know we're all lonely. We know we aren't meant to be lonely. We know it's a problem that's only getting worse. And we know one of the main factors. The next question, what do we do about it? It's the most terrible poverty. It's hitting us all. What do we do? Well, the first thing I want to make clear is this was not intended. The very beginning of the Bible, Genesis 2:18, the Lord God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone." He made Eve for Adam. It is not good for the man to be alone. God doesn't want us to be lonely. He never meant for that. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls down and has no one to help them up. It is not good for the man to be alone. I want to talk about John. Now, I don't know if you were like me when you read the Bible as a kid, maybe in Sunday school, and they spoke about John, and he seemed to refer to himself as the disciple whom Jesus loved. Now, I used to think that was a bit arrogant. Like, I'm sure he loves you all, John. You're not special. But someone told me a different perspective on John lately, right? Someone said to me, what if when he calls himself the disciple whom Jesus loved, he's not talking about that from Jesus' perspective, but from his. He's not saying, Jesus loves me more than you. He's saying, I know I am loved. He sees the question, do you feel loved? And he goes, I know I'm loved. Jesus loves me. I know it. Is he full of himself, or is he secure in love? Something all of us crave, something none of us seem to have. Imagine knowing that you were completely loved by your closest friends like John knew he was loved by Jesus. Imagine having that security and love. Imagine on a Saturday night when you're feeling lonely, knowing, I might not be with anyone right now, but I know I'm loved. Imagine knowing that for sure. Now, this is where you're probably expecting the church bit from me, which is where I say, so God is the cure to your loneliness. Look at John. So go home, have a bit of a pray and you'll feel better. That doesn't fix it. Hasn't fixed it for me. I don't think it's fixed it for you. Because here's what we're forgetting. Adam used to walk through the garden with God. Adam could not have been close with God, yet still it is not good for the man to be alone. Still, God made Eve for Adam. God is the solution to this, but not separate to people. And this is what I want to talk about really tonight. This is what I want to be clear about. When I say, or when people say God is how you get over your loneliness, God is how you're going to beat this loneliness, that doesn't mean lock yourself in a dark room and pray for 4 hours and you're going to feel better. You're not. You're going to feel more lonely. Maybe it'll help a little bit, maybe it'll help sometimes, but God did not intend for you to beat loneliness by being alone. You might have seen one of these lists. I know a lot of people do them when they're younger and you're told to put God first. And so you draw up something like this. This is your list of priorities. God, family, friends, work, study, hobbies. Some 4 and 5 are swapped around. There's a fundamental issue with that list. A fundamental issue. Because if God's at number 1, God's not at number 2. If God is number 1, he's not in your family. If God is at number 1, he's not in your friends. We need to stop thinking of God as over here and the rest of our lives is over here, because that's not going to fix anything. It should be all together. God should be in all of that. So we know that we're all lonely. We know we aren't meant to be lonely. We know it's a problem that's only getting worse. And now we know one of the main factors as well. So what do we do about it? We love. As Mother Teresa said, the only cure is love. Loving God in others. This is what I want to really propose tonight, this idea, right? So if we can't beat loneliness with God separate to others, we can beat it with God in others. Now, I went on Helping Hands a few months ago now, and it was the only time I've been out there. And I want to speak a bit about what I saw right there. So Nell Ryan and Dan Ryan were both there. Now, I saw Nell making food for people in a really tough life situation. And you know what? In that moment, I didn't think I felt more love for Nell Ryan than then. That was so much affection. Looked over and I saw Dan Ryan. He was running around with these kids who had these massive, massive grins on their faces. In horrible life circumstances, he was bringing this little bit of happiness to them. And I love Dan for that. Anne and Elmore, we see it every week with those two. They are always here doing everything for us. They are incredible people. And I love them for it. But here's the thing. I'm not loving Dan. I'm not loving Nell. I'm not loving Anne. I'm not loving Elmore. Not just as they are. I am loving God in them. I am loving the God in Dan Ryan. Because that is the God in him that's doing that. And by doing that, I'm loving God. But I know how your minds probably think. Then your minds probably think, so you're not loving Dan. No, I am loving Dan. I'm just loving him separate, or not separate to God, if you know what I mean. We need to stop separating. All right, so my friend is here and God is here. They are together. They are intrinsically together. You need to experience God in your family. Experience God in your friendships, not separate to them. If we can start to love the God in each other, that is what is going to beat loneliness. Because here's the thing, when I love the God in Dan or in Anne or in Elmore or Nell, that's the God in me loving the God in them. It's like this magnetic thing. Loving God in others is where personal faith meets community. We were not meant to be alone. It is not good for the man to be alone. God said this at the very beginning. At the very beginning, we are here for each other. Here's the takeaway message that I really want to leave you with. If you have tuned out at times tonight or you're struggling to get a grasp of everything, I really want you to focus in on this. God is not something separate to our human relationships. Instead, he should exist most fully in our human relationships. That's the only way to beat loneliness. That's how we do it. Because if we do it that way, then the next time someone asks you, do you feel loved? The chances are much better you'll say yes. Because as humans, we are not strong enough to love each other fully and completely. The God in us is. Here's tonight's challenge. Here's what I want to see tonight. I want you to stay back 20 minutes or half an hour longer than you normally would. Maybe think about when you were planning on leaving. Maybe you've got an early start tomorrow. I don't know. I want you to push it back if you can. By 20 to 30 minutes. Trust me, if you get 20 minutes less sleep, it'll be worth it. If you're going to go to Hungry Jack's or Macca's, do it 30 minutes later than you were going to. If you have to text your parents immediately, hey, I'm staying back 30 minutes, do that. Just stay back. Give yourself the time. And I want you to, there's a few things you can do. Either talk to someone you haven't spoken to before and actually talk to them. Not small talk, actually talk to them. Or you can, I'll go with this. Start with this. Instead of talking about how busy you are or your job or what's been going on or what the weather is, where we all get caught up in meaningless conversation, start your sentences with this. Right now, I feel, and complete that. Right now, I feel stressed. Right now, I feel lonely. Right now, I feel sad. Because that's when we'll be vulnerable with each other. That is when we will be open and honest with each other. When we start our sentences like that, instead of this constructed idea of who we are that we have on social media, that we have all through our lives. Right now, I feel, start your sentences like that. Tell people you love them. Tell your closest friends around you that maybe you've known for years and never said you actually love them. And don't do it in a joking way where you laugh it off. Actually tell them, hey, I actually love you. Now, I know they're scary words to say because no one wants to make themselves vulnerable, but we don't do it enough. And clearly we're all feeling alone. Clearly we're all feeling unloved. Why aren't we telling each other we love each other? Because we all do. Think about your closest friends. You know you love them. Do they know? When was the last time you told them? So talk to someone you haven't spoken to before and actually talk to them, or tell your close friends you love them, or just engage in real vulnerable conversation. Let the God in you out. The stats are so clear. We are all feeling lonely. That was never the plan for us. Let's fix it.